Today we're going to be exploring Adam Ellis's Dear David haunting on Twitter. Now, out of all the hauntings I've ever looked at, this is the most compelling I've ever seen. Not only does he go into deep descriptions about all the events that occurred, he also provides an abundance of evidence. Now, this first tweet comes from August 7, 2017. He says, "So my apartment is currently being haunted by the ghost of a dead child, and he's trying to kill me." He goes on to say, "The first time I saw him, I was experiencing sleep paralysis, and I saw a child sitting in the green rocking chair at the foot of my bed. He had a huge misshapen head that was dented on one side. I did my best to draw it." I had another dream a few nights later, where I was in a library and a girl comes up to me and said, "You've seen Dear David, haven't you?" I was like, "Who?" And she said, "Dear David, you saw him." She continued, "He is dead. He only appears at midnight, and you can ask him 2 questions if you say Dear David first." Then she added, "But never try to ask him a 3rd question, or he'll kill you." Then David came back in another dream, same situation. I was in bed, and he was sitting in the rocking chair near the window, staring at me. In the dream I say, "Dear David, how did you die?" He mumbles, "An accident in a store." I say, "Dear David, what happened to you in the store?" He groans, "A shelf was pushed on my head." I'm frozen with fear. I asked, "Who pushed the shelf?" David didn't answer. I realize that I've asked a 3rd question, which I'm not supposed to do. At that point, I wake up absolutely terrified. The next couple days I googled deaths in the city, but can't find anything about a kid named David dying in a store. I even tried different names, Daniel, Dylan, Devon, nothing. A few weeks go by without an incident. Sort of randomly, the apartment above mine is vacated, and I had the opportunity to move into it. It's a larger apartment, so I'm thrilled. Another month or 2 goes by, and I sort of forget about Dear David. I think he lost track of me because I moved upstairs, but lately, something strange is happening. For the past 4 nights, my cats gather at the front door at exactly midnight and just stare at it, almost like something is on the other side. Last night I get a weird feeling and look out of the peephole, and I'm dead certain I saw movement on the other side. When I opened the door and turned on the hall light, nothing was there, but my cat seemed unnerved, bushy tails, etc. And that's where I am right now. Dear David found me, I think. I don't know what to do. I'll keep you updated. Update. For the 6th night in a row, my cat walked over to the door promptly at midnight and stared at it. What is going on? Okay, so I took a photo through the peephole because I'm too scared to open the door. I feel like I saw something. I couldn't tell, so I mustered up the courage to open the door. Nothing was out there, but I took another photo. Look at this. Is it just me, or is there something in the first photo, right where the banister meets the shelves, hiding on the stairs? I wasn't sure if it was a smudge or something, so I took a second photo from inside. There was something out there. I deadbolted the lock and got in bed because I don't know what else to do. I can still hear my cat meowing at the door. I'm very scared. It's been pretty quiet tonight. I'm gonna try out a sleep talk app to see if anything happens during the night. I'm heading to bed, but the cats are back at the door. They only do this in the middle of the night. It's routine now. A few nights later, he tweets, and here we go, just minutes before midnight. Maxwell is extra talkative tonight. He's obviously trying to tell me something. I don't even know if this is the right kind of salt. I used a sound app to record my apartment last night. It makes individual recordings each time it hears something. There were 33 recordings. In the morning on August 11th, he shared all the results of his sleeping app. Although most recordings weren't very interesting, there were 3 he thought might be worth listening to a little bit more closely. Now, in my opinion, I think these noises can be easily explained, except for the electronic static one. I'm sure the bumping around was just his cats running around the house when he was asleep, and I'm sure the groaning was him just groaning in his sleep. But, nevertheless, the story continues. Getting the F out of my haunted apartment for the weekend. And this is where it gets even more interesting. So a weird thing just happened. Take it with a grain of salt. I bought a Polaroid camera this weekend because they're fun and dorky. I decided to take a few pictures around my apartment. I took a couple of my living room and the bedroom. That's the rocking chair I first saw David in. They're pretty unremarkable. Then I went into the hallway and snapped a photo. The Polaroid developed completely black. I even ripped open and destroyed a fresh pack to see if it was just the undeveloped Polaroid, but they start out white. I also thought maybe I accidentally covered the lens with my finger, so I took a photo while intentionally covering it. The photo on the left is me covering the lens with my finger. The one on the right is my fully lit hallway, taken just after midnight. So this could be nothing. I'm not sure what to make of it. This is when the fan started to chime in. I'm not sure if David is still in the hallway. Looks like he's in the shadows, just above your Polaroid. He went on to say, I'll record myself sleeping again tonight, and I have Sage being delivered tomorrow. As always, I'll keep you in the loop. Okay, one last thing because I wanted to double check. Here's a couple of videos of me taking photos.
Okay, here's my living room. And I'll leave that there. Okay, now I'm gonna take a photo of the hallway just to show you what that's like. And as you can see, the first one has already developed. So let's see what this one does. It's gonna take a minute. But it is developing black. So I don't know.
Someone told me to take photos from farther away, so I tried that. Once with my iPhone, once with the Polaroid. Left is with my phone, right is with my Polaroid. The hallway light is on both times. Why is it pitch black each time with the Polaroid? People following the story enhanced the images and found a figure standing in the pitch black doorway. Folks have been urging me to get some sage, so I did. Sage did not work. I haven't dreamed about David in a few months, but he appeared again last night. In the dream, my bedroom was filled with hazy smoke, but I could see David sitting in the chair across the room. He was smaller this time, almost shrunken. He didn't do or say anything except look at me. Anyway, it feels like a bad omen. It's been 2 weeks and he still does this every night at midnight. It's just a whole bunch of small things happened at once. I feel so uneasy, like right before a thunderstorm comes. Everyone is telling me to move, but I don't have any guarantee that it won't follow me. They just issued a thunderstorm warning for tonight. All of this ghost stuff has been spooky, but this past weekend was the first time I actually felt unsafe in my home. I had a dream last night where David was dragging me by the arm through an old abandoned warehouse. I'm not sure why I didn't fight back in the dream, or how he was strong enough to pull me, but that's dream logic for you. It was a creepy dream, but I didn't think much of it. When I woke up, I took a shower, and then I noticed something. I'd woken up with a huge bruise on my arm. He said I could have a perfectly realistic explanation, like he bumped it in his sleep. Or he hit it during the day and just didn't notice. But nevertheless, even if it was just a coincidence, that's extremely odd. Even creepier, the next morning he went to go get breakfast like he does every Saturday. He passed by a food cart repair depot that's near his apartment, and it was empty. Usually it's extremely busy, always packed full of carts, but today it was empty. I've lived in this neighborhood for over 4 years, and the place has always been jam-packed with carts getting serviced, but today it was completely abandoned. The whole warehouse was totally gutted and empty. Well, almost empty. I went inside to look around because I was astonished that this place was suddenly empty after all these years. Basically, the only thing in the entire warehouse was a single green chair. Just like the one at the foot of his bed that he sees David in. On my way back from coffee, the warehouse had been shuttered. It's remained shuttered since. The chair, my bruise, dreaming about an empty warehouse, and then passing by one, it gave me the creeps. There have been a few small developments in my apartment, but I'm not really sure what to make of it. I just know I'm scared. I was almost used to the routine, so when they started to cry at the door closer to 10 p.m. I was confused. They began a new routine. Hover around the door at 10 p.m., cry for about 15 minutes, then wander off as if nothing's wrong. Shortly after the usual cat stuff, around 10:30 or so, I start getting phone calls from an unmarked number. My entire call history for the past week looks like this. You'll notice that I answered once. Yesterday. Usually, if it's an automated thing, you answer at once, they quit calling, so I picked up. I didn't say anything, I just listened, waiting for some automated messages to chime in. After about a minute, the static stopped and there was silence. I kept listening. I heard what I thought was breathing, but it was so faint I can't be sure. My heart was racing, so it was hard to hear. Then, just as I was about to hang up, I heard a very small voice whisper, "Hello?" Something about the way they said hello freaked me out. It wasn't a question or a greeting. Just, hello. A flat statement, so quiet I could barely hear it. I panicked and hung up. I didn't know what else to do. I closed all the curtains in my apartment and turned on every single light. Anyway, last week I bought a pet monitoring camera so I can keep an eye on the cats while I'm overseas. It's basically a nanny cam that connects to the Wi-Fi, so you can check in whenever you want. It runs 24/7. So, I watched the feed again, still nothing. I watched it a third time and finally noticed something. Watch the chair. About half an hour later, I got another motion alert. Here's the feed of that alert. I hope nothing else happens tonight. Wait, someone just pointed out that one of the blue chairs in the background disappears in the second video. But as it turns out, it was just a lighting error with the camera, and if you raise the brightness, you can clearly see the blue chair. It's happening again. During the night on Saturday, while I slept, it recorded the cats in the living room. It seemed pretty unremarkable at first. But then a few moments, Maxwell freaks out and jumps over something invisible. Anyway, the next night the camera recorded a couple more strange videos. Specifically, it recorded Maxwell doing this on and off for hours. He says it's like he's batting at something that humans can't see, but he does admit that it could possibly be a bug flying around. One person points out that a green glass moved, but someone also noticed it and said that it's probably just a work of physics and that they have experienced something similar. I just can't shake the feeling that something has made its way into the apartment. It's odd behavior from Maxwell, in any event. Things feel off this week, I can't explain it. I hadn't even gotten to the pantry when I heard a loud crack. It's better just to watch the video since the nanny cam records everything now. As you can see, I slid the lock immediately after realizing that was going on. I also checked about 4 more times before bed. The thing that fell was a little knitted cactus and a terracotta planter. It's totally busted now. Then, more odd dreams occur. On a pillow next to me was a severed head with a bloody spine attached, snaking down the bed. The head was staring at me, somehow still alive. It had this huge smile plastered on its face. Horrified, I screamed, "What happened to you?" The head smiled even bigger. "It feels great," the head groaned. When I passed the warehouse a second time, I heard a dull thunk from the other side of the shutters. I froze in place, but there was no other sound after that. I probably should have just continued on, but curiosity got the best of me. There was a grated window next to the doors, about a foot above my head, too high for me to see into. So I thought to myself, okay, I'm gonna hold my phone up to the window, take one photo, and then run for my life. It seemed to be a different part of the warehouse, maybe an office. There was a bunch of old insulation and what looked like a filing cabinet and a ripped leather desk chair. Maybe I'm too deep into this and my brain wants to see David when he's not there. But here, I messed up with the filters on my phone a little bit. Tell me this doesn't look like him. The past few days have been fairly quiet. I haven't been spending much more time at home. I leave for Japan in a couple hours. I've been trying to avoid anything weird before my trip. I still feel like this all might stop if I just leave for a couple weeks. Whatever happens, I want to thank everyone for their kind thoughts and concerns. This whole ordeal has been stressful and it means a lot. It makes me feel like I'm not going through this alone. See you in a couple weeks. I bought a votive tablet at the shrine. I'm at it in Japan. Now, this occurs on his last full day in the country. I was taking pictures of it from different angles since it's cylindrical. I moved around to the other side and almost dropped my phone at what I saw. It felt too similar to be a coincidence. I felt dizzy staring up at it. This kid with the dented head. Weird things have been happening with the electricity in my apartment this week. First 2 bulbs have burned out in the hallway in less than a week. At this point, I've just left it alone, rather than get a ladder again. I noticed it just sometime before dawn, when I woke up and went into the kitchen to get some water. I'd barely gotten back into bed again when I saw a faint light come on in the living room. After a few seconds, it went dark again. At first, the pictures didn't seem like anything, just blurring nothingness. But as I analyzed it and started noticing things, part of a face, an ear, and an eye staring back at me. I had Fred come over and cleanse the place. And for a week or so, it seemed like it worked. Things appeared to go back to normal. The cats weren't gathering at the door anymore, I stopped having dreams. And then came the warehouse. This time, all the metal doors were wide open, sunlight pouring in. The warehouse was still mostly empty except for one thing. There was a hearse, parked near back of the wall. Now, on the night of October 25th, he was heading to the kitchen to grab a beer from the fridge and spotted something terrifying at the window. What seemed to be a person standing on the apartment building across from him, on the roof, just staring at him. I immediately ducked down. I reached up and flicked off the light switch. I peered over the window, still couldn't see much. My phone was in my pocket, so I grabbed it and took a photo. It was blurry and dark, but I swear someone was out there. I tried to take a better photo, but the figure had disappeared. Okay, so this is not okay. Here, after the brightness is increased, you can clearly see a figure standing across on the roof, staring directly into his window with glowing eyes. But as it turns out, these pictures were nothing. In the dream, I saw him in a chair again. I don't have the green chair in my room anymore. This time it was a recliner I've had for years. He was staring right at me, just like the first time. Again, I felt paralyzed and could barely move. But this time, something was different. When Ellis looked at his camera roll on his phone, he saw dozens of photos that he had taken in the dark last night. Apparently, he wasn't just taking pictures in the dream, but also in real life. These 3 images were of particular note. For everyone asking, yes, I'm alive. I've been on the quiet side because there's some things that I'm trying to investigate and I'm not sure how to do it yet. I'd rather not tweet unless I have something substantial to share. It's also sort of hard to explain the logistics of what I'm trying to find out, but I'll do my best. Basically, there's a part of my apartment I'm now just learning about, at least what I think. To refresh your memory, I live in a duplex. I used to live on the first floor, and now I live on the second floor. It's a long boxy building that looks like this. But as he was writing his previous update, he said that he started hearing loud banging noises from above his apartment. And he also said that there was no way to access the roof, and he ended up finding a hatch. So I'm thinking, is there some secret crawl space in my home? I look all over my apartment, but I can't figure it out, so I go into the hallway and that's when it dawns on me. There's no real way to ease into this, so I'll just say it. There's a mysterious hatch in my hallway. I've always known about it, but I assumed it opened directly to the roof. It's really high above the stairs, so I always figured it was impossible to access without some sort of fancy professional ladder. I took this video so you can see how high it is. I see the hatch every morning when I leave for work and think nothing of it, but this time something dawned on me. It can't lead to the roof because it's actually below the roof. I'm about to spring some simple math on you, so I apologize in advance. First, the skylight is flat with the roof. I checked Google Earth to make sure. The hatch is about 3 feet below the skylight, meaning there's about 3 feet of open space between the 2 openings. I think maybe the hatch leads to a short ladder going to the roof, but even if that's the case, the hatch is level with all the ceilings in my apartment. That means there's 3 feet of empty space all over my apartment. And now, November 24th, 2017. A lot has happened in this last week, but I was away for Thanksgiving, so I'm just now able to write it all down. The noises from the ceiling haven't let up, but the pull-out order didn't arrive before I had to leave for the holiday, so I didn't actually get it until late Friday night. I planned to investigate the next morning, and went to bed. I'd barely fallen asleep when I woke up to an incredibly loud crash above me. It sounded like someone had dropped a bowling ball. I bolted upright in bed and immediately felt strange. There was a weird energy all around me, I can't explain it. After about a minute, I heard another crash. I briefly thought about grabbing my shoes and booking it, but that would actually mean passing under the hatch, and that seemed like a bad idea, so instead, I just listened and waited, though I'm not sure for what. The crash happened again, and again, and then again. Probably 15 times in a row, followed by a long silence. Then I heard a smaller, creaky sound from the hallway. In my mind I registered it as footsteps, but it really could have been anything. I stayed still, but there were no more sounds after that. I lay back down, still tense and nervous, but I must have fallen asleep at some point because I woke up the next morning, everything seemed normal again. I got dressed and left to go get a bagel. Same as every Saturday. At that point, bagels were the last thing on my mind. I went back upstairs and grabbed the pole. I set my camera on the coat wardrobe at the top of the stairs and hit record, just to make sure it would be caught on video if a demon burst out of the hatch. Here's the video. I went upstairs to get my phone and collapse the pole since it's so long and unwieldy, then went back downstairs to investigate the object that fell. At first I wasn't even sure what it was. It was a dinghy, faded black. I picked it up and realized what it was. It was a small leather shoe. A few hours later, my landlord was on the ladder, shining a flashlight into the crawl space. I stared up at him, half expecting something to grab him and yank him into the darkness. He angled his flashlight all around him, finally saying, "There's nothing up here." But then he was like, "Oh wait." I watched as he reached up into the emptiness with his free arm, and when he pulled it back, he had something small and round in his hand. He climbed down the ladder and handed it to me. Again, I wasn't quite sure what it was. I was looking at it, and it was smooth and shiny, and at first I thought it was an old piece of candy, but it was cold and too heavy to be candy. After a second I realized that it was a marble. It was so worn that it hadn't registered as a marble at first. Its shape was also sort of weird, with a little bump on the end. Now, there's actually a reason the bump is on the marble. Back when glass marbles were made by hand rather than a machine, scissors were used to cut them off from long strips of molten glass. The little bump on the top of the marble, which marks where the marble was cut, is called a punto. This marble is probably dated back to the turn of the century. He ended the thread by saying he was keeping the shoe and the marble on top of his dresser, which I think is a terrible idea. Sorry for the long break. I haven't been feeling great the past couple weeks and haven't had time to update. There also wasn't much to say for the most part. I wasn't sleeping well and I was having weird dreams, but they were vague and hard to describe. I'm sleepy all day long and I've been getting these sudden bouts of dizziness. The next update comes 2 weeks later on December 12th, 2017. He was beginning to feel like he was being watched when he was asleep and would wake up in the middle of the night with this strange feeling that someone was just staring at him. After a couple nights of this, waking up suddenly feeling like he's being watched, he downloaded an app on his phone that automatically takes a picture every 60 seconds and set it up on his bookcase. The vast majority of them were me sleeping in an empty room. It's sort of dark, but you can see me sleeping. I thought a couple night lights on just in case anything showed up, but for the most part, it was just me in an empty room. Then suddenly, he was there, standing on the chair at the foot of the bed, staring at me. In the next photo, from a minute later, he seems just to be staring straight up at the ceiling. Just staring. Then he appears to collapse on the chair. The next dozen photos are all the same. He's completely lifeless. At first I thought he was dead, which obviously doesn't make any sense. I looked over at the chair at a half expecting him to still be there, but it was empty. But then, in the next photo, he's gone. The room is totally empty again. He's gone in the next several photos too. I figured maybe that was it, but I kept swiping through the photos. About 15 minutes later, he was back, standing next to the bed. It was just like the last time I saw him. That's when my heart started to race. I didn't want to look at the rest of the photos, but I knew I had to. I swiped to the next photo and my heart sank to my stomach. He was on the bed, inches from me, staring down at me, sleeping. The next one is worse. In the next photo, he was staring right at the camera. After that, there's seemingly nothing. He disappears again and the rest of the scroll is just me alone in my room again. That is until the last photo. Here's the final photo on the scroll. And that was when someone noticed. David moved the camera. I'm at a loss for words. The malformed ear, that stringy hair, I didn't even know what to think. I looked all over my room but couldn't find anything, and honestly I've been so exhausted I didn't know how to process it. Even now, all I want to do is just go to sleep. Hey everyone, I'll be gone for the next week, visiting family back home in Montana for the holiday. It'll be nice to get away from all this for a bit. Thanks for everyone's kind words. I'll see you when I get back. I even started browsing listings for new apartments back in New York. The last thing I want to do is move into the middle of the winter, but after the past few months it seems like it might be worth it. It felt like there might be a way out. But after a few days I started feeling strange once again. One night I got up to go to the bathroom and as I stood there in the dark, I couldn't help feeling that there was someone moving outside the bathroom window. Long story short, David followed Ellis home to Montana. Even though he was reporting feeling less tired and less foggy for the first couple of days, he quickly started to feel off again. The bathroom looks out into the backyard and it was pitch black. I could barely see anything, but it's in Montana and there are animals passing through here all the time. Sure enough, in the morning I found animal tracks through the snow. I don't know the specific animal, deer, elk. In the morning, as I was getting out of the shower, I glanced out the window and noticed tracks behind the garage. I couldn't tell what they were from the bathroom, so I got up, got dressed, put on my coat and went outside. When I got up close, my heart particularly stopped. They weren't tracks, they were footprints. Really small footprints. Last night was particularly bad. I felt sick and had nightmares all night. I dreamed that David was hovering in the corner by the ceiling, far off the ground. He was mouthing something, but I couldn't hear any words. Then, he was hovering over my bed, staring down at me, his mouth moving faster than it should be. I couldn't move. I could only look up at him. Suddenly, he plummeted downward, and I felt this huge pressure crash onto my chest. I woke up gasping, the wind completely knocked out of me. I sat up and looked around frantically, heaving for air, but there was nothing. When I caught my breath, I retrieved my phone from the dresser. The photo roll showed nothing of note, save for the last photo, taken just a moment before. I swiped to my mentions and saw that everyone was tweeting to me about something I'd posted on my Instagram story the day before, saying they saw something weird. The stories are expired now, but I have screenshots and I don't know how to explain it. Long story short, I went to brunch on Saturday with a friend. I had posted a few photos to my story and then they were fairly unremarkable. Here's the first two I posted, totally dumb and normal. This is what somehow got uploaded to my Instagram story. I have no clue what happened. It looked perfectly fine on my phone when I uploaded it. I'd say it was just a glitch, but I can't make sense of what's happening with my face. Maybe I can. I know what it looks like, what it probably is, but I don't know if I care anymore. I really just want things to be normal again, and things feel normal enough right now. I don't know. I guess I'll keep you guys updated if something else happens. Now, some people started to believe that David was actually possessing Adam Ellis. Like, I've been sleeping fine, and I have lots of energy during the day, but sometimes I seem to sort of lose time, I guess. Like, I'll look up at the clock and realize a whole hour has gone by, and I don't remember any of it. Then, a video of his cat was tweeted with no context, no thread. And of course, this led to lots and lots of speculation. Does he even know he tweeted this? Did he tweet this? Adam, is this you or David? We need freaking answers, man. I am scared. Everything is fine. That's all there was for the next update, just 3 words, and also it's not in his usual style. You can see it's not capitalized and there's no periods or punctuations. There's also misplaced spaces in the tweet. So, everything's probably not fine. Some of you already know this, but I thought I should make a short update on Twitter about it. A little over a month ago, I made the difficult decision to leave my full-time job after about 4 years with the company. It wasn't an easy choice, but it just became too difficult to focus on everything, and I decided it was time to turn my attention towards personal projects. I'm nervous about what the future holds, but I feel good. I know big things are coming. Please don't worry about me. I'm okay, and everything will be like it was before. And yet again, this tweet has no punctuation and no capitalization, and you see him use a smiley face emoticon, which he's never used in any of his tweets before. And next comes another very mysterious video of the cat. No context, no thread. Very similar to the one on January 28th. For everyone asking if I'm alive, I'm doing okay. It's been pretty quiet around here lately, and I've been trying to focus on work. Of course, I'll keep you updated if anything strange happens, but for now I'm staying busy with drawing and other projects. And with this final update, he announced some Dear David news. Dan Lin, producer of It, will be producing a Dear David film with the screenwriter Mike Van Ways. writer of the Conjuring spin-off, The Crooked Man. Now, this doesn't discredit his story, and Ellis also told that what he's been experiencing is absolutely real, and not everyone believes him, but do you?